God bless those of you who have successfully suppressed the memory of the Texans playoff game versus the Chiefs. But the rest of us recall that the Texans allowed 8 sacks in that game. That's a lot of sacks in any economy. So I brought in my old teammate, Drew Hodgdon. He was an offensive lineman. I was a defensive lineman. I wish I'd done this more when I was an actual player to figure out what the hell these guys were actually doing to me. But he's going to help me figure out what the Chiefs were doing to the Texans. And I did come out of it thinking, man, there's some room for optimism here. These are fixable issues, especially hopefully with a new offensive coordinator and a new offensive line coach. Thanks to BetUS for sponsoring the video, where right now you can get a 200% sign-up bonus up to $5,000 at their casino. They've got slots, they've got live dealer tables, they've got a bunch of generous promotions and tournaments and a whole lot more. So check out the BetUS Casino, where you'll get a 200% sign-up bonus up to $5,000, a 250% crypto bonus up to $5,000 as well. And thanks again to BetUS for sponsoring these videos all season long. So let's dive in with Drew Hodgdon. All right, first sack will be first quarter, 1 minute, 47 seconds remaining. It's 3rd and 8 at the Kansas City 46. Let's watch this Mamba Jamba through one time. I haven't watched any of these yet.
Okay.
In detail.
Yeah. You know, he just leans. That's just him being a rookie.
Yeah.
Really, that's all it is to me. And that guy's an NFL end. I mean, they rush well.
So it's combination. I mean, in this, you got a double whammy. You've got the blitz or the game. It's just a game. It's a 4-man rush.
This is pretty sophisticated, to be honest, like from a front. I mean, even if you ask a quarterback how to designate this, let alone a center, you probably have, 10 different answers from 10 different guys.
So you got 3 defensive linemen. This overload front that's all the rage these days. Those 3 defensive linemen are all aligned to the right.
Wide end.
A potential blitzer, but then you've also got a wide end. I get stressed out on behalf of offensive linemen when you try to figure out what the hell you're going to do.
They started doing this to mess up the slide pro designation. So, for people that know, I mean, slide protection is kind of the standard. You have the line, all 3 guys on one side going to one side, and then you have a back end or a tight end responsible for the extra rusher on the other side. And then the O-line's big, meaning like they're locked on the 2 guys to their side. But they screw them up by having this guy who looks like he's lined up as a nose. You're assuming he's going to get back home to the side with that one end that's wide on the left there. But what ends up happening is they're holding the guard. You see the right guard right there is held. Yeah. It looks like and then what he doesn't see is the looper coming all the way around.
Yeah.
Right. So that's really smart scheming. I mean, I'm assuming that's all intentional. But at the end of the day, the center actually does a decent job of coming out late, I thought, and trying to pick him up. I mean, really, if you want to call it like a weakness in sort of the Kyle Shanahan kind of Kubiak style offense, it's, you don't really have like a built-in hot, quick like that. You have to build it in to exactly what the play is to begin with. So usually what they do is they always have at least one option.
Yeah.
They're aware that's going to be like a short, route. I do think it's one of those things where the longer he does it, him being Stroud, I mean, he'll start to know what those routes are right away. Happens, he'll get used to it, but it's not built into the offense.
All right, next one is a Charles Omenihu sack, who looked like he was still mad at Jack Easterby when he made that sack. Boy, they identified that Shaq will get frozen by somebody in his face, number 32 specifically, right?
That's exactly right. But the thing that's weird about it, I mean, he's obviously saying like he thinks he might get picked or that he's just going to take up that rusher. No matter what, I mean, his set is bad. I mean, that's a wrong answer no matter what.
It's bad in any sport. That's bad in basketball. That's bad in slalom skiing. Yeah.
Every sport, no matter what, he's spread too wide. I mean, if he's not setting deep enough, he's got no chance to pick up the D lineman. He just goes straight lateral. Now, what I would say is that in a perfect world, the right tackle, probably because he's a rookie, and he's getting real wide.
Yeah.
An already real wide end. He's got time to just go vertical and help the guy. Right?
Yeah.
You can stab inside. Like the good tackles, they give a good stab and then they come out.
Well, and especially when you got, I mean, when you go out that aggressively to the outside, it feels like you're also going to get in the way of the chip too.
That's right.
Of course, but you get no chip, huh?
It's like scat or empty pro.
Yeah.
I mean, right? They're just going 5-on-5, and this is the stuff that depresses you probably as a coach, is that you have the numbers. No matter what, when you have the numbers, you're kind of like, we got to hold up.
Oh, shoved by Chris Jones on Laramie Tunsil. I won't stand for it.
Tunsil did some good things though.
I dude, honestly, I'm trying to keep an open mind about him because I feel like he consciously tried to change his whole operation after he was on a record, like at a breakneck pace to set a record for false starts. It feels like he committed to trying to be a complete player and really care about the run game. It's just you can't learn that and change that in the middle of a season. But I give him credit for, I think, kind of changing his operation.
Yeah. You can already tell this is going to be bad.
Okay, why can you tell it's going to be bad?
Well, because already we've seen what they've struggled with. But when you look at how wide the guy's aligned.
Yeah, the three technique. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's so wide. So that's already presenting some kind of challenges. And Shaq Mason just hasn't been that deliberate at it. But then you knew, because of how wide the end is, that the tackle's going to jump out at him.
Yeah.
So it just reeks of, because what that does, that's exactly right. Look what it does. It pulls the center all the way out of the.
Okay. Yeah.
So look at how that's a lot of ground.
Yeah.
For guard to also have to defend. So it's just, it's not. I don't even think. I mean, how mad are you going to be at the guard? It's not horrible, but it's just, that's a lot of territory.
It's a lot of that's like a one-on-one pass rush in practice. Yeah. Rich, the offensive lineman will always say, as we argue about who has the advantage in one-on-one pass rush, right. Like offensive linemen always bitch about, like, well, there's no congestion that you get in a game,
right.
And then you look at here, and because the congestion helps the offensive line, right. There's zero congestion. That's worse than, because at least in one-on-ones. A lot of times, your dirty brethren will kind of line up in tight splits, so the defensive tackle still has to honor the splits at least as they stand there in place. But like this, this is worse than one-on-one pass rush. This is for the offensive guard. Okay, I feel better about that because Titus is, at the very least, and he's giving ground slowly.
I'm defending him a bit, but it's like on the scale of 1 to 10 getting beat, to me, that's kind of like a 3 or a 4. I mean, that's tough. It's tough. I mean, you don't want to ever get beat like that, but it's tricky. I mean, you also think like maybe if Tunsil it works out in such a way where he's a little firmer and sheds him inside, Stroud can roll out around it. But.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he gets. Oh, and then he steps on Titus's foot right there. Yeah, and that's got to be a horrible feeling, huh? When it happens as a defensive lineman, you're at least still creating a pile. Where when it happens as an offensive lineman, you're creating a pile in a bad way. This is less depressing than I thought it was going to be. I feel like this is fixable by way of getting a younger and or better right guard, which, by the way, the Chiefs' right guard, Trey Smith, is a free agent this year. And then by Blake Fisher getting older, and he's going to have a new offensive line coach next year. Yeah,
Fisher looks completely... I don't even want to say salvageable. Sounds too negative. I mean, he seems like a guy who absolutely can be a good player.
4th and 10 in the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, we've only gone through 4. That's right, all these sacks. 5 of these sacks came in the fourth quarter. No. I forgot it was that bad. My gosh,
they were all late. They came out of hand. Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
This looks like you're either going to call it like an odd or a bear front. Mm-hmm. It's effectively a bear because the backers are walked up to the line. So you got 5 guys up front. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you got 5 rushers that look like they're in position to come.
Yeah.
So no matter what, whether you're in slide protection or what they call base pro, which is kind of just like every man for himself, one-on-one, it's going to be the same thing for the most part. You're going to have every guy is going to be locked on a guy.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's unusual in this one is that here they look like they're in kind of like a turn pro because they're bringing Tunsil down.
Yeah.
Right. So Tunsil is down on that safety or linebacker or whatever.
So you've got a 2-on-1 with 21 and 56.
Yeah.
Out on a tight end and with a running back that has to come across the formation.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
So should they have checked into a different protection?
Back it up a little bit. I mean, the reason why where are you gonna flip it to? Because you still have a defender on the side who's in a coverage position, just like 21 is.
Yeah.
There's no indicator to me that tells you, hey, if we go the other way, we're in a better spot.
Right. Okay. And it's not like necessarily 21 does a pretty good job of not really looking like he's an obvious blitzer.
No, he looks like he might just be covering.
Yeah, it's a good job by him. I thought Kansas City's good at that. These guys look very casual before they blitz.
I was pretty impressed, honestly, with how their defense, was getting lined up and how they were getting home. I mean, they don't make it easy at all.
So and then the numbers are right here. This one, my thought was, my dumb D lineman thought was, well, yeah, you don't like your tight end being on Karlaftis, but they've got the numbers. And versus a 6-man blitz, you're going to have bad matchups. Like it just happens, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'll be honest. I'm not a fan, obviously, of Schultz's blocking ability.
Yeah.
On like the scale of how bad it can be for a tight, I don't think this is that.
It's not as horrendous as
because honestly, like when you go back, look, if 21 isn't coming there and the scheme is different. Now that could be a misassignment. Maybe Schultz is supposed to be checking inside out.
Yeah.
But even one of those guys is coming basically because the back is so late getting over. So, imagine if 21's not coming, Stroud might be able to step up and underneath.
Stroud's got an option there. Yeah. With that big chasm there, he can come under.
He's done some bad stuff this year. I mean, he hasn't been a good blocker. But.
Let's look at the depth too. Schultz, by the time CJ gets to the back of his drop, I mean, he's starting to drift there, but he's at about 9 yards.
Probably know that.
Yeah. Oh, that's 11. That's 11 yards there.
I mean, it's deep. The way his pocket presence this year has been a little off, and I think it's for obvious reasons, right? I mean, his instincts are a little wonky.
Well, and he's also, but I mean, it's at 9 or 10 yards until he sees 21 coming, and I mean. 21 could have leg whipped him at 9 yards if he had stayed there.
Right. I mean, what's rough is this whole situation where it's 4th and 10, and then he just takes like a massive loss.
Yeah, just actually taking the sack back there. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
of course, they're going to have. I mean, it's not like they could kick not with Kaimi Fairbairn on this night. You're not going to. They can kick from 10 yards.
I'm not on that rabbit hole, but what do fans think about that?
I'll tell you how I feel about it. I'm not in a committed relationship with any kicker ever. I don't care what he's done for me in the past. I'm constantly looking for a hot 20-something to replace it. Yeah,
I agree. I'm always looking to trade up.
And it just looks like a 4-man front. 32's creeping.
I mean, that's just, he just got beat again.
Tell me about Dalton Schultz's chip here and how much it helps out the offensive tackle.
Oh, yeah. In so much as it was kind of like, I want to set you up for failure in the most prolific way possible.
It looks like a bad swim move by a defensive lineman. You're like, oh, no, dude, you got to be more, if you're going to swim them, really be violent with the swim as you get past them.
That's the thing. If you're going to, I guess, if you want to argue that you're doing that for a reason, then do it with some energy.
He's specifically, it's almost like he was aiming for his back instead of his.
Giving him a little extra momentum for the rush.
He moved his left arm out of the way.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to sprain my wrist.
He just delayed him.
56 shows no concern or worry about Schultz because usually what a guy would do is try to dip his shoulder a little bit, anticipating the chip. He doesn't even, he's going to hit it.
Right.
Open door and boom.
Rips and rips. I mean, it's tough. You can tell how straight. I mean, Eric Winston will tell you this. I mean, how it is hard for those pass sets through a tight end like that, right? It's just kind of awkward. And
it's hard for the tight end or hard for the.
It's hard for the tackle. It's hard for the tackle.
Because his kind of angles and his space to work with is kind of limited.
Exactly. You don't have a good sense of exactly like where he's going to be, and you don't really know what it's going to look like. Especially if the tight end is going in front of him, then it's really tough.
Well, and it looks like I was going to maybe try to give Schultz an excuse because maybe he needs to get out on his route, but he's taking a little mini pass set first. It's not. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like I think it's not so much that as look, if he's not gonna chip him at all, then that's the communication before the snap.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
tackle's got to know that, right? If the tackle thinks that he's getting a chip and he doesn't, then that's the problem.
As far as on the actual picking up the game on the defensive right side,
It's pretty good.
pretty good. I thought Patterson did some good things. Like in the one screen they ran, I thought he did a good job on that.
He looks like he plays with some good energy.
Yeah. I don't worry about his swarm ability.
Yeah.
For those of you unacquainted with swarm, it's D'Amico's favorite acronym. It's special work ethic and relentless mindset. And it
stands for something.
Yeah. We've turned it into a verb. Like different than normal swarming is a verb. It's a verb and an adjective. Like, are you swarm? Do you swarm? All those things. Creeper.
Mm-hmm.
God, they just play so many.
A lot.
Head games at the line of scrimmage.
You do a lot of different looks. I mean, it's
You watch it.
It's no joke.
This is more than anything. I would just probably blame this on the coverage, right? I mean, if CJ, let's see, should he stand in here?
That's a nice shot by the guard, though.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason for him to flee right this. Well, I mean, he knows that the tackle's got to pick up that. Yeah, he had to flee.
Go back. Don't if we're gonna give the right guard a ton of grief, we have to give him some props.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay.
I mean,
ooh,
that's good.
Because they have all these little games within the blitzes that they run really well.
You do see that shot though, right?
Oh yeah, no. That's what I said. Oh, about.
Oh, you know who struggled this game too were the backs, man.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm wondering with the back here. He's zeroed in on 32. 32, who again, no, he's creeping. So he's alert to 32, but 27's creeping in from the outside. 32 disappears. Back picks up 27. I mean, makes a.
Yeah. That is Schultz at tight end again?
Yeah. Yeah, he's the only white guy remaining.
Okay.
Kate Stover broke his collarbone.
I mean, honestly, that's a weird one.
This one didn't feel as egregious.
No, I mean it's a good scheme.
And it's at a certain point, it's only a 5-man. It's a dog.
I mean, the back got beat is what that is.
Yeah, it's just the back got beat.
That's really all it is. Now, I mean, the one thing I would say is that, if you're kind of looking at it like Stroud's demeanor, I mean, he looked like he was kind of ready to go before.
He's been sacked at this point 5 times already. Now he goes for 6.
Yeah, it's not a winning formula. Oh, it's a nice job at guard though.
Yeah. What were you oofing about?
The left guard. D-line was throwing the kitchen sink at him.
Yeah. This one was curious. That's a disciplined pass rush. Those guys, the defensive ends get to the level of the quarterback, and they're not trying to run past them selfishly or anything. They're just trying to squeeze it. Oh, that indecision right there, huh?
Yep, that's it.
And at this point, I mean, Nico's banged up in the game. I probably should have included the sideline copy in this because I don't know what he's looking at, but he's got nothing apparently, or doesn't feel it.
Yeah, but that chatter right
there,
that's I mean,
this is ideally, if he hadn't been sacked 6 times previous to this, you're hoping that he's not bailing there, right? That's a nice pocket.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of those ones that, I mean, I remember watching this in real time where that's where you go like, that's unfortunate because they're actually doing a good job here. It's the lasting effect of what happened earlier in the game.
What's he seeing when he switches the back over? Number 32? Schultz comes down. And this ends up being a 4-man rush.
God, man, that is tough by the running back. I mean, that's not good.
So with this one again, You talked earlier about, okay, Schultz, try to run your guy around. You're not gonna shut down a defensive end.
Right. I mean, it's bad for multiple reasons. I mean, the bigger thing to me is like these are the kind of wrinkles where, again, I don't know what they were game planning necessarily or what their general rules are.
Yeah.
But it is like a little bit of whiteboard brain where you're thinking like, okay, we're going to check to this side. All you got to do is lock the back on the widest guy. Well, but in reality, him moving all the way from that side underneath gun and getting all the way across is awkward. It's pretty awkward.
Well, and I guess, the other question I'd have too is because of the way Kansas City operates, I mean, should you even be buying into 32 showing up there at all and then changing your protection into such a way that, all right, if it's not a blitz, then it's a really, really tough pickup?
That's exactly what I was going to say, is that they've gotten them into kind of they're dictating what the offense does.
You create turmoil.
And that if you were to be like a pessimist, even though the Texans did a lot of good things this game and they looked better in a lot of ways than they had earlier, the downside is that they also they got rattled a bit.
Yeah.
They didn't look stoic necessarily in a way that I think, a seasoned team, say what you want about Kansas City, but they know how to stay calm and under control. Missions, and the Texans look like they looked uncomfortable, which is, they're younger. It makes sense.
They're younger, and I don't know. I think Bobby Slowick's still going to be there next year. So because you're at the point now where
you think so.
I mean, it's been a week since the season's over. There's head coaches being hired. Those head coaches are going to be hiring coordinators. If they're going to make a change, they got to do it quick. My big question is, all right, D'Amico played for Chip Kelly for 3 years in Philadelphia. Chip Kelly just won a national championship as the offensive coordinator. I wonder if maybe they're having conversations with Chip Kelly, but Chip Kelly's going to want to see if any head coach opportunities open up or if he's going to interview for any of these.
Yeah.
And if they don't, then getting back into the NFL by being an offensive coordinator for CJ Stroud might be the totally the next best option. I don't know. And then
I would be interested to see that, to be honest with you. I think that'd be an interesting matchup. His system probably, I think, it's very different from what Stroud has been doing. I mean, I wouldn't be able to speak to it specific to Ohio State, but it's a lot of quick game.
Yeah.
It's a lot more of that. Very different from that standpoint. Not the same kind of play action, obviously, but he also proved, I mean, he's great with the run game.
That's exactly what I was saying. I think people think, oh, Chip Kelly spread offense, aerial attack. And like, no, dude, he runs the piss out of the ball. Yeah.
Big time. He's good at it. Yeah.
Well, and he hired Jeff Stoutland, who remains the offensive line coach in Philadelphia several coaches later because he's so good. And I think that if only to be a guy on the offensive side of the ball that can kind of be the head coach of the offense and hire good offensive line coaches, because Chip Kelly didn't know Jeff Stoutland at all. So it wasn't like he was hiring one of his buddies he knew from back in the day or anything. He went out and found a really good offensive line coach who was at Alabama at the time and hired him to coach the Eagles. And then, they spread the ball to run and they tend to be coached up pretty well at it.
Yeah, they create space. They love to create space and mismatches, and they obviously move fast, not as much as they used to, but it'd be really interesting. It's probably something that maybe he'd be a little more comfortable with. I mean, at the end of the day, it's whatever the OC is you have in there, that's probably not the biggest problem. I mean, the biggest problem is obviously just the personnel. The line. I mean, they need to be coached up, but they got some work to do.
So you think Blake Fisher you have hope for? I think Shaq Mason's he's up there. Like some guys can play until they're 37 and some guys can't. And I don't think he's probably the guy who can. Then I guess center is a question where I like Jared Patterson in some ways. I like Juice Scruggs in some ways, but it doesn't seem like either of them are really athletic enough to be like a Chris Myers, and certainly not I mean, it's not fair to say Jason Kelce, but that's the ideal. Yeah. They're not like Jason Kelce and Chris Myers are both really quick guys.
Yeah.
And neither Patterson or Scruggs are that guy.
No, I mean, Scruggs to me was kind of the bigger disappointment.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually thought he was going to be I think last year, I thought he was going to be a little bit better.
Yeah.
I mean, between he and the kind of rotation at left guard before they ended up moving Howard, I mean, those guys were all pretty underwhelming. I mean, Patterson, I think you can live with.
Yeah.
That you can be fine and serviceable. He could probably get better. How many years has he been in?
This is his second year.
Oh, I think he could get better.
Yeah.
You need a significant upgrade at right guard.
Yeah. And that's where, okay, so how are you feeling about Titus at left guard next to Laramie?
I mean, I actually thought as it went on, I thought he did some pretty good things. I mean, like we talked about on some of the other streams we did, he doesn't move quite like he should in a disciplined way.
Yeah.
He moves a little out of control and not as deliberate as you need to be. I mean, the really good guards,
yeah,
you're watching playoff football now and you're watching Philadelphia, like you mentioned, Stoutland, how they move very deliberately, very, very clean. The Lions, really good. I mean, there's tons of clips on YouTube. You can see, they maintain their base. They got their fits.
It's like a teach tape.
That's right.
I know you told me you have like about once a week during the season, you'd be like, "Are you watching the Lions game?"
Well, exactly. Because they just look so good. I mean, every single one of them, generally, they're moving in unison. Whereas, like between Howard, and that is the difference. He looks like he's playing basketball by himself. I'm impressed that he's getting up to the second level and that he's moving. But it affects the fit on where the back is reading. It affects the combo blocks because the tackle's not in the right position.
Yeah.
It doesn't work in unison as well. So if he fixes that stuff, then that side can be pretty good.
That's where the one thing with Titus is that every time previously that they'd moved him to guard, he was very reluctant to do it. He was adamant that, nope, I'm a tackle. It feels like this time around, and especially maybe, being able to play next to his buddy Laramie Tunsil, I think he accepted he accepted the challenge more enthusiastically. And because he's at a stage in his career and he's played left guard enough that you would think like, okay, what? He's going to change those technique issues now. I guess I would be hopeful that, if he's attacking them enthusiastically and with a good offensive line coach, he might really be able to clean some of that stuff up.
I would agree. I mean, I'm looking at all, I'm evaluating this through the lens of there are only so many moves you can actually make.
Yeah.
They're not going to be able to bring in like 3 or 4 new guys, I'm guessing.
Right.
So, at the end of the day, it's like you're going to push your chips in on the weakest spot, which more or less is probably right guard, maybe center, if you're hoping that the right tackle does well.
Yeah.
I ultimately don't really think that there's enough grit or, really like give a shit, honestly, from some of those guys to really justify them over someone else who's much better.
Yeah.
Howard's fine. But I mean, when you look at the left guards that are really doing work, it's not, you can feel it without even knowing what you're looking at. Or like, oh, all right, this guy's what's the old, like any of the old cliches, like the guy that you want next to you in a bar fight, or the guy this guy could definitely lay more bricks in a bricklaying contest, than anybody else. Like, you want that. I want a guy that's got freakishly large hands and looks like you couldn't punch him out if he stood there with his hands behind his back and let you cold cock him. It's not even going to phase him. You want to be able to tell, are they brain dead? I don't even know.
Well, like what you mentioned about being rock solid with your technique. Yeah. The big difference when you go down there, when you play inside, is that it doesn't matter how athletic you are. Everything happens too fast. And that one false step is you're beat. Like you've opened the door and that's it. So you don't have time to recover the way you can out in space.
Right. Yeah.
So, all right. You know what? I actually somehow weirdly feel a little bit better about that game. And maybe that's just because I'm beaten down. And I'm also
they weren't a lot of those. That wasn't as bad as the other games we watched.
I feel better in the way that, like, oh, my head feels better now that I stopped bashing it against the wall. But some of the trauma remains. So there you go. My head actually does feel better, especially with a new offensive coordinator, a new offensive line coach, perhaps an acquisition in free agency, a draft pick here or there, the development of Blake Fisher. I do feel hope for the future and that the offense can get up on par with the defense and get the absolute most out of CJ Stroud. I'm Seth Payne, played for the Texans a long, long time ago. If you liked it, hit the like button, subscribe, and all the rest of it. Thank you.